Hello, John Talley here with Partzilla.com. Today we're going to be attacking the ball joints on our 2011 Polaris Ranger 800 Crew. Now, there's only one part number we need, so let's step over and take a look at it, and then we can get started. And I said there was only one part number, and that's for the upper and lower ball joints. It's all the same. That's for the left and the right as well. And since we're in there to replace one, well, I'm going to go ahead and do all four, because chances are, if one is worn out, the rest of them are going to be soon to follow the same path. Now, as far as the special tools that we're going to need, make sure that you have a good set of jack stands, because you don't want to trust just that one point of a jack to hold it, especially a unit that weighs as much as this one does. On the other list of special tools, you want to have access to a press as well as a bearing driver set. Beyond that, probably going to need a set of circlip pliers to get that retention ring out. As far as the just standard tools go, I will call those out as I go along, so you'll spend more time working on the machine instead of running to and from your toolbox. Now that we've got our tools and our parts together, let's jump over there and get this thing knocked out. Before we lift it up, let's go ahead and break the lug nuts loose. Now on this particular unit, these are aftermarket rims, so my lug size is going to be a little bit different than yours. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and get these things broken loose, then we'll lift it up. And when you're placing your jack stands, make sure that they are actually going under the frame itself. You don't want to have one come through your floorboard. Before we take the wheel off, this is what I wanted you to see. Just how bad this thing was handling. I mean, look at that. Gee, think we've got some worn components in there? I mean, what a mess. Now that we know what the problem is, let's get that wheel off and get this thing straightened out. All right, guys, come here and take a look at this. Now look at the amount of play that this thing is moving. Just right there, focus in on that bolt and how much it is moving. Now, most of the movement you see is from the worn out wheel bearing. Now, we're going to be addressing that as well, but just not in this video. If you need help doing that on yours, reference this unit's playlist and I can walk you through that. But today, we're going to get these ball joints knocked out. Now, to remove the caliper and the bracket as an assembly, just need a 15 millimeter. What we're going to do is pull this loose, and I'll use a bungee cord or a zip tie and just hold it up out of the way because I don't want it dangling down off of the brake line. And at this point, leave the control arm bolts as well as the steering knuckle. Leave those attached because we want this to stay as stationary as possible when we go to pull off this end cap, and then the nut on the inside, which is actually on the end of the half shaft, the drive shaft that goes all the way through it, or CV shaft if you will. Now it looks like somebody's already worked on this one once, because I know from Polaris that is not the way they bend their cotter pins. So somebody's been in here before. That being said, be careful if yours has been messed with, because if you take it apart a certain way, you're going to remember it, and you may be remembering it the wrong way. Now, if yours has been tampered with and you're not sure that they put it back correctly, you may want to verify it. And the best place to do that is to look at our exploded diagrams. That gives you a picture of what all is supposed to be in there. And look at it part by part, nut by bolt by washer, to make sure that they actually put everything back in there that should be there. That's what I'm going to be doing. I probably should have mentioned this before we pull the brake calipers off. I have an impact. If you do not, and you need to break this loose, what you can do is actually put the tire back on and knock out that center cap on your wheel. That way you can get in there with the vehicle sitting on the ground and break it loose. But we're already in the air. I have one of these, so it should just buzz right off. That was real easy, and I'm betting that wasn't anywhere close to what torque should be on there. I know enough about electrical work to know that this is a 3/4 inch EMT conduit lock nut. I'm pretty sure that Polaris did not use this when they put it together. Why in the world they did this, I can't even fathom. Here's my theory at this point, guys. I think somebody replaced the half shaft of the entire unit and they picked the wrong one. Oh, you poor thing. Here's what we're going to do next. Good grief. Let's go ahead and pull the steering arm. Now, typically, there would be a cotter pin that goes through this point right here. Well, it's not there. No big deal. But what you have is a 15 millimeter nut down here and a 13 up top. Generally, when I pull these apart, or anything for that matter, if there are washers and nuts and bolts, I'll usually put them back together the way they came off. That way I'm not searching for them when it comes time to reassemble it. Now all we need to do is just remove this upper and lower through bolts that are actually pinching down on the control arm ball joints. It's just 13 on either side. Now we should be able to push it down enough, or at least from the top. Now let's get the bottom. Gee, I wonder if that bearing had a problem. So here's what's going to happen next. We're going to go ahead and unbolt and remove the shock, and then we're going to keep the caliper attached to its hose, but we want to remove this mount over here that's on that upper control arm. Get it hung out of the way, and really it's fairly simple and straightforward to disconnect or unbolt the control arms at their pivot points up here, but the problem is the one at the bottom, at the forward part, the bolt goes in from this direction. And guess what's in its way? The front bumper. So the front bumper will have to be removed so that lower bolt can be pushed all the way through. But let's start off by getting this out of the way, hung over in this general location, remove the shock, and then I'll attack the front bumper. Then we can unbolt the control arms. And then after all of that, get those ball joints replaced. Fun, huh? So let's go. The mounting bolt for this little holder is actually a T25. Make sure it is cleaned out and the tool is bottomed all the way down. Otherwise, you run the risk of stripping it. Now, get this swung out of the way. There, that should do. Not too much strain on it. Let's go for the shock next. What you have holding the shock in place is just a nut and bolt configuration, 15 millimeter on either side, but you probably want to use a deep well on the nut side. You do not have to remove the shock all the way, but I'm doing so just to give myself room to work. Now I should note, it is possible if you have the correct tools, you could actually press these out with the A-arm still attached to the machine. If you want to purchase that tool, have at it. I'm going to do it using the press. Just so we can have a small victory, let's go ahead and remove the upper control arm. Then we'll deal with getting that bumper out of the way so we can get the lower one. Magic number on all these nuts and bolts, once again, 15 millimeter. And when you're doing this, you need to remove the front one before you have room to actually remove the rear bolt. Order of operations with this is very important. As you're pulling everything apart, I usually group it together as far as the nuts and bolts. If yours are going to get jumbled together, I suggest getting a Sharpie and some Ziploc bags and just label it. That way there is no question what goes where when you go to put it back together. So let's shimmy it out now. And as I'd said before when we inspected this, it has some play in it. Just a matter of time before this goes pop. And then you've got a real steering issue. We'll put this one aside and go ahead and start removing the bumper, and then we can remove that lower one. Before we pull the bumper, this particular unit actually has a winch on it. Let's go ahead and disconnect the battery so there is no chance of anything arcing. Now, all of that just so that bolt can go this direction. Woohoo. Now to recap, the way I did this is I basically unbolted the front bumper from its mount down here, as well as going to this one since it had a winch. and then I'll remove those 2 grates, and then you had 2 upper bolts, and then we'll pull out these 2 lead rollers, and at that point I was able to drop it out. If you want to leave this attached to it and just hit those back 2 bolts, have at it, but this thing does weigh a pretty good bit. That's why I decided to leave it in place. So there's more than one way to do it, as long as you get it out of the way so we can get that bolt. I probably should have done this earlier, but let's go ahead and get the CV joint or half shaft out of the way. I mean, we can leave it in place. If yours is stuck, you don't have to pull it out. I mean, you could hold it up with a bungee cord just to get it out of the way. This one, let's find out if it releases. But once again, if yours is okay, you do not have to remove it. But I'm just doing it so you can see what I'm doing to remove the A-arm. Now, let's get busy taking off those circlips and pressing out those ball joints and getting the new ones pressed in. So this is pretty simple to do. We just need to get the circlip out of the way first, and then press it out. But the real trick is you can't really just put this on the press because it'll just go into the bottom of it. What you need is a socket or a piece of pipe fitting, or I'm actually using part of a kit to remove bearings on a car. What you need though is something that fits to the outside of the joint itself, but still has enough room to catch that inner edge on the A-arm. So that gives it a space to push through into. So that's what we're going to end up on the press, is this right here. I'm just going to be holding this, trying to keep it square, and then we're going to bring down the press and push this through. Biggest trick, you need to go find something that's the correct diameter to go around this to press into. All right, let's go. I think that's got it. Oh yeah, no problem. That actually pressed out really easy. You could probably put this over a cup like that and just hit it with a hammer and she would have popped right out. Tell you what, just for fun, let's grab that cup, see if we can just knock it in with a hammer. Well, look at that. Didn't he need a press? Alrighty then. Let's put our circlip back on, and then we'll attack the other one. There she goes. Make sure it's seated. One down, one to go. Let's see if we can do the other one without even using the press. I'm betting we can. Yep. Chances are you could have done this on the machine. Look at that. Now I have had these push in practically by hand like these, and I've had them to where I had to use a press to get them out. This one was an easy one. Yours might not be. That being said, let's go ahead and get these back on. Let's start with our lower. Just going to put a light coating of grease just on this surface area, not on the threads, on each bolt. All we need to do now is just reassemble it. It's just the reverse of what we did to take it apart. Now we want to go and get these torqued down, and we're going to take it to 30 foot-pounds. But the real trick here is it may be pretty tough for you to get here and then right here. We'll try, that may be the problem child when it comes time to do that one, and we may have to torque it from the backside, and it's going to be a little bit off because you're having to deal with the resistance of the bolt going through instead of just going after the nut. So if we have to go from the backside or the opposite side on this top left, we'll just put a little bit more on it to make sure it's going to hold. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Same scenario, same torque values. Let's get that 30 foot-pounds on each one of those now. And as I guessed, we're not going to be able to get the torque wrench on this side. So we're going to torque it backwards by actually going on the bolt itself till it says 30 pounds. Then we're just going to put a little bit more. That way I know it's at least 30 on that end. So we should be okay. Okay, next the half shaft will go back in. Polaris recommends that you put in some anti-seize on these threads. I've always found it easier just to use a high temp grease, and that's what I'm going with. Simple enough. While we've got it out and it's clear, let's put some grease on the output shaft splines. We've got our steering knuckle ready to go. Let's get it mounted back up. When you're putting in these bolts, there's a groove that it has to go into, so you may need to adjust it up or down to find that groove, because if you're too far down, it doesn't want to go. See? So bring it up, find that notch right here, and that's where the bolt will slide past. Bring our upper one in, down. Same scenario. Find that groove. Pop it in. 13 on either side. We'll go ahead and bring these in with just a regular ratchet, and then we'll bring over the torque wrench and put 23 foot-pounds on them, both the top and the bottom. Oh, that is feeling so much better. What a difference. Let's go ahead and mount the steering arm just to hold things still as we put this together. Go ahead and get our shock back in place. I'm going to bring these in and then torque them down to 30 foot-pounds. Now, let's get our hub on. I'm putting grease around the outside of the hub as well as down into the splined area. Now, we already greased our new CV shaft, but a little bit more won't hurt in here. Because if you don't do this, and there may come a time when you need to pull this back off, it could be a torn CV boot, or you put enough miles on it to wear it out again, and there's not grease in here, well, guess what is going to get in there? Water. Then it's going to rust, and you're going to have a whole lot of fun trying to pry these two apart. Now this is what the washers are supposed to look like. I don't know if you can tell, but they have a bevel to them. There are actually two of them. I'm going to get them in place. And then we are going to torque it to 80 foot-pounds. When I say it, I mean this castle nut. Now, there's a couple of different ways you can do this. One, I could put the brakes on, have somebody hold the brakes. That might do it. Sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. I've seen them where they actually slipped. Second, we could wait until we put everything together. You leave that center cap off on your tire, drop the unit down, then torque it. We are going to try something a little bit slicker, I think. What we are going to do is use this punch going through the rotor into our mount. But what I don't want to have happen is that it damage the threads when we torque it. So what we're going to do is put a few wraps of electrical tape right where this part's going into those threads to cushion it. Bet you haven't seen that one before, huh? There you go. Okay, next, let me show you how Polaris usually does their cotter pins. They put the long side on the inside, drop it in, and then they just bend both of them up together like that. Okay, next we're going to put the caliper back on, and we'll go ahead and get it on the rotor. Let's dial our torque wrench back down to 30 foot-pounds. But just don't forget to go back and put that little clamp that holds the brake line in place. And the bit is actually a T25. Now we just need to go in and torque down the tie rod end bolt. We're up to 40. The top of the actual bolt is a 13 millimeter and the nut is a 15. And then there's actually a cotter pin as a safety precaution that goes in at the very bottom, which this one didn't have when we took it apart, but it's going to when it leaves. There we go. Well, all right, guys, she's all back together and feeling a whole lot better in here. Those ball joints really did the trick. Now, if you have an aluminum wheel, torque it to 30. If you have a steel wheel, take it to 35. Now, I still have to put the bumper assembly back on, but I have a little bit more work to do on the other side, so I don't want to just take it back off. Well, listen, if you need any parts for your machine, why don't you come see us at Partzilla.com and we can get you taken care of. If you like what you see, why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That way you can keep up with whatever I'm working on next. We just want to say thank you for shopping here with us at Partzilla, and we will see you in the next video. Y'all have a great day.